It's 2023, I guess. Hi folks, welcome to the show. I'm Luke Hector and I'm the Broken Meeple. This is a show devoted to board games where I give reviews, top 10s, and always give my honest opinion regardless of the consequences that might befall me. We'll get on with the top 10 in just a second, but first I want to say a quick word from the sponsor of this channel. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk. KIENDA stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to KIENDA and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So yeah, 2023, I guess. Why am I not that excited? Well, I gotta admit, when I was younger, I preferred the whole New Year's Eve, New Year's Day thing. But nowadays, when you're into adulthood, every year just kind of feels like the same, really. And time is ticking, and our mortality is catching up with us, and it's never a good thing. But then also, to be honest, I mainly just use it as an excuse to go out for a drink. So how's that any different from any other night? But the thing is, with gaming, it's kind of even more confounded because you got people at the moment doing their top 10 anticipated games list, and I did one last year as well, but I mean Dice Tower do one every year, so does Board Game Rambling, so does a lot of other channels. And every time I watch them, I go, really? That you're looking forward to? Or that little thing? Or that, I guess? Or yeah, I suppose. But then the other thing you notice is that they're pretty much all Kickstarter games. Yeah, Kickstarters kind of killed the industry in some respects because, think about it, a publisher typically doesn't announce their games until something like a week before release if they're bringing it straight to retail. They'll wait to somewhere like Gen Con or Games Expo or Essen, and then a week before it they'll go, we're bringing out this game, hooray! And sometimes that turns out to work. I mean, Lost Ruins of Arnak, one of my favourite games ever, that I do not believe was on Kickstarter, and I believe it was pretty much just announced shortly before Essen. Most people didn't really know what to make of it, and then all of a sudden it's one of the best games of that year. You know, sometimes maybe it's a good thing to not be on Kickstarter. But the problem with a Kickstarter project is that you back it a year ago, like, you know, April 21, you know, January 21, maybe even longer than that. And then by the time it comes out, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I backed that, didn't I? And suddenly your excitement for it has died down because your initial buzz about it was at the time you backed it, and then since then you can't keep up that same momentum for buzz. This is why I have a go at anything which is Kickstarter hype generation, which is basically a case of, we're bringing this game to Kickstarter, and then people come along and go, we must buy it, it's the best game ever, yes! This one makes me want to play it again, which honestly is the most generic quote I've ever heard quoted for any board game on Kickstarter. It makes me want to play it again. Seriously, I can think of a lot of things that make me want to play it again. Granted, I don't want, if I had a root canal, I wouldn't want to go back and have another root canal, but the idea of like, oh, the game makes me want to play it again, that is not the biggest quote in the world. Anyway, yeah, I digress. But I had to do this list, and I was contemplating doing it on a podcast, but I thought, no, come on, Luke. You gotta find 10 games that you're interested in for 2023 that aren't expansions. Yes, a lot of these are gonna be Kickstarter. It's just the way it is. And granted, one of them is a little bit of a cheat. We'll get to that later. But I figured, you know what? These are 10 games that when they come out, I'm gonna be at least interested to try them. And there are some here that I'm genuinely excited for. But yeah, a lot of people are going, oh, this is gonna be a fantastic year for gaming. And I'm just not seeing that. So, oh well, let's get on with it. I'm being I'm being the grumbly cat here at the moment. So yeah, this is my top 10 sort of interested games for 2023, I guess. Now I should stress that a lot of these games I don't have a lot of detail for, because most of us don't have a lot of detail for. Some of them are on Kickstarter, yes, but again, all we've seen is a Kickstarter page. We haven't even necessarily played the game or had more of a demo of it, so there's going to be limited information here. But my number 10 is a giant 4X game, Space 4X, from a publisher that is known to do games that are designed to pound your brain into submission, because they are ridiculously complex, and this is no exception, because not only is the game looking ridiculously complex, but it's done by a designer who, credit where it's due, he's a good designer, but man, he needs to be like, you know, operating in NASA or something because he's clearly smarter than I am by a long shot. This is Voidfall from Mind Clash Games and David Turksey. This is a giant game, a massive game. The more I hear about it, the more I hear that it's got stuff in it. And I played a single round at Essen in, I think, 2020, I believe I played it. And I kid you not, this took a couple of hours for us to be taught the game and to do a single round with 4 players. This has me worried, and that's why it's no longer as high up on the charts as it may have been when I initially thought, oh yeah, I'll go and back it. And to be honest, it was a last minute back. I actually backed it after I played that demo. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was a good solid game. But the more I dwell on it, the more I'm worried that, oh yeah, wait a minute, this is going to be a 4-hour 4x game that I'm going to have to try and play with the exact same people all the time because teaching it is going to be the biggest chore in the world. Maybe it's got a solo mode that I'll go nuts for, but solo modes for these type of games tend to be pretty complex. Again, is that going to put me off? So you might be thinking, why is this even on your top 10? Well, see the paragraph I mentioned before when I introduced this video, but you know, I do think this will be a fun game, but I'm kind of concerned that this is going to be a game that I play once and go, this is a fantastic game, because it definitely had a lot of mechanics that I thought were really cool. It's well produced, and I do want a nice Space 4X game in my collection. But I am worried it's going to be a bit like something like Feudum. You know, that Feudum, really cool Euro game. Well, I suppose it's a Euro game. It's got a mix of stuff in it. But I've played it, and I think it's a really great game. I'm probably thinking I'm never going to play it again, though, because the chances of getting it to the table with the person who owns it and people who want to play it is nigh on non-existent. And I'm worried this is going to be the same thing as well. There is such a thing as too much. But we'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, and I would like to be proven wrong on every mildly negative thing I say on this video, okay? So hopefully I'll be eating my words in the future. But my number 10 is still Voidfall. My number 9 is a game that a lot of you probably haven't heard of as much. I didn't even realize this was a Kickstarter game at first. I thought, yes, I found a game that's not Kickstarter that I'm looking forward to. And then I went onto the Board Game Geek page and saw, oh, they've done videos on it. Yeah, it was a Kickstarter as well, but I must have just literally ignored it when it came out on Kickstarter. I'm like, oh, glossed over it, don't care. Maybe the generic title doesn't help, and that is Beast. But Beast gets my attention mainly because of its concept. It's essentially a hidden movement style game with a beast of some description, so naturally big monsters with cool abilities and stuff, that's trying to hide away from these hunters that are tracking it down.
Take that, you winged spawn of Satan!
But eventually the beast has to try and nip away at the hunters. It's almost a bit like a Fury of Dracula style sense, but I would imagine hopefully this will be shorter and a bit more streamlined and a bit easier to handle than Fury of Dracula. But the concept alone is what's putting this on this list, because I like this idea of a big monster being hunted by various people, which makes me sound like a monster in myself, you know, that you're a monster. But I do think that this would be fun. Now, the reason it's not quite higher up though is because we tried this sort of thing on PC games before. Remember a game called Evolve? Yeah, remember the Angry Joe review for that one? Not the best game in the world, it had a lot of problems, but the concept of you playing as the monster and trying to take out the hunters sounded amazing. I'd love that. You know, I'd love the co-op aspect of working together to defeat the monster, but then I would also like to be the monster going, right, you guys are new to this game, I'm the monster, come and catch me, woohoo! And that'd be great fun as well. I know pretty much nothing about the mechanics of this game, but if they can just nail that theme, I might be willing to overlook a few mechanical flaws in the game, but it needs to be a decent mechanical game in its own right. And this is from a publisher that I don't know much about, I believe Studio Midhor, I believe their name is, and it's relatively unknown to me, but can they do it? Please do, because this kind of game I think I would really love from a thematic standpoint. But, like I say, fingers crossed, we're hoping that this is a good one. My number 8 actually might not be a Kickstarter game. I think it won't be. I mean, don't quote me on that, I could be wrong, but everybody knows a publisher called Fantasia games. They've done Endless Winter and Unconscious Mind. Spoiler alert, Unconscious Mind is not on this list, not because I don't think I'm anticipating it, but because I've already played a full game of it last year, and so I kind of already know what my thoughts are of it, and I'm hoping that they tweak a few things to make it better, but I didn't feel like it was worth putting on this list when I've already technically played a full game of it. That's also why you won't see Stationfall on this list. But with this one, this is their side little publishing firm, Peaker Games. I believe they are related, and this is meant to be a firm that's doing lighter games than their usual fare. A bit like what Next Move Games was meant to be for Plan B, and yet, well, when did that ever go anywhere? I mean, it came out with Reef, and that was about it, really. Where's the next one in the line? But this one, I'm down for, and this is called Flow. Flow, as in F-L-O-E, this is essentially you exploring an icy landscape, building buildings, eating noodles apparently, that's in the description, you know, word for word, that's in the description, but interacting with various bits on the map and using a shared movement with the boats. This sounds like a really cool, you know, nice game, not to mention illustrated by Andrew Bosley, who does some fantastic artwork, but with this one, I'm kind of down for seeing this side venture do a smaller type of game, because not every game needs to be some 3-hour, 4-hour monstrosity with a ton of rules that you'll never get played more than once in your life. At least not if you want to play everything else in your collection. But the idea with this one being probably more mid-weight level and a lighter fare, because I very much doubt it's going to be light, but mid-weight will do me. You know, something like, you know, that kind of mid-weight would be nice. But this sounds like a cool idea, and I think mainly this is down to the pedigree of the people that they're related to. So if they can pull this off and give me kind of like the enjoyment that I get out of something like Endless Winter, but in a smaller, sort of smaller scope, smaller time scale, you know, smaller box, smaller price point, that kind of thing, I'm down for it. So I don't know, again, much about what they're going to do with this because, you know, the details are relatively sparse, but we should hear more about it, I believe, in the first half of this year, and I do believe this is coming straight to retail. Wrong! Take your time, get it right, and then just let us know relatively soon what it's going to be like, and we'll get excited, I'm sure. Flow for 8. For my number 7, we have to return to a publisher I've already mentioned on this list. Yes, they're getting away with 2 games on this list, but that's given that I wasn't the most, shall we say, excited for the last one I mentioned from them, at least this one I can give a bit more praise, and that is Septima from Mindclash Games. Again, another Mindclash game, but this one I'm definitely looking forward to more than Voidfall, mainly because it's supposedly meant to be a lighter affair than the rest of their stuff. This is Mindclash Games, okay? Lighter fare needs to be put in giant if quotes, because they say this one's a lighter fare, but it still looks fairly midway at least, if not heavy. It's still likely to be a good 2 hours to play. There's definitely a lot of moving parts in it, but the moving parts sound pretty good. I mean, simultaneous card action selection sounds really nice, but mainly the theme really sounds good, and Mindclash tend to do pretty well with their themes. Usually. I mean, Anachrony was a pretty good theme, you know, I really like the theme of Cerebria. Tricarion had a decent setting, the theme was a little abstracted, but the theme was still there in places. The main time they kind of dropped the ball really was Perseverance, which had some theme, but abstracted quite a lot of stuff in it. But this one, the idea of building up a witch's coven and deciding whether you're going to sort of be like, you know, big evil witch or rescue other witches and how you're going to interact with other players. This one's apparently got a lot of interactivity. This is a theme that isn't touched on much outside of social deduction games. There's loads of them, like Salem and things, where it's like, oh, escape the witch trials and stuff like that. Who is the witch? Burn the witch.
We have found the witch, may we burn her?
The idea that you're running the witch's coven sounds pretty good. And I can't wait for the fact that as soon as we start playing this game, anybody who's a Marvel fan is going to be singing it was Agatha all along constantly with this game, aren't they?
And I killed Sparky too.
You know it. You know it's going to happen, and if not, I've just started it, so you're welcome. But yeah, Septima sounds quite cool, and I'm more interested to see if Mindclash can actually pull off a lightish game. Now, I'm not expecting it to be super light or anything, but the thing that worries me with this and why it's not higher is because I've played a lighter game from Mindclash Games. Their little game they did called Astra. I don't know if it was Mindclash or different publishing name they used, but it was basically the same company, effectively. And Astra was, yeah, not particularly good. So they haven't exactly got off to a great track record with their lighter games so far. But again, theme sounds pretty good. The mechanics sounds really good. So you know what? I'm down for it. Send me my copy and I'll certainly be willing to give it a try. My number 6 actually could have been higher up this list, but I backed it quite a while ago on Kickstarter, and since then the buzz has come down a little bit, remember what I was saying. But also the updates, or lack of thereafter, of this campaign kind of worrying that I'm not sure they're going to pull it off, like maybe they were a bit over ambitious. But the theme, setting, and IP it's based on is certainly something that I want to see done right, and I can hope that they get it right. But still, can they? I don't know. Academy Games, you better pull this one off, and that is Stellaris. I backed this one at the last minute last year. Bit overpriced, even for a Kickstarter, you know, I thought for what you were getting, but a 4X space game is something I would like to have in the collection. Because granted, I've got Zyre Legends of Adrift, but as much as that game is fine, it is mostly just random nonsense.
Star trekking across the universe.
You roll dice tons and you see what happens. It's almost like you're just telling your own little story, but you can't really strategize in it because a lot of it is dependent on dice rolls. But the game is still fun in its own right, and I do have it in my collection, I just don't get it out often. But I wouldn't mind a proper 4X space game. Empires of the Void 2 is fantastic, but it's not a 4X game. I mean, see my last podcast where I talk more about that. But this one is supposed to be Stellaris 4X, and Stellaris is an epic 4X space game. I played it on the PC. I'm taking a break from it for now, but I've sunk many hours into it, and I still don't understand half the systems in it. But the idea that I can have all these different races and build up my kind of space civilization with some diplomacy, with some combat, with the technologies and all that stuff would really suit me. I like that sort of thing, and no, Twilight Imperium does not count. But certainly I don't want the game to take 6 hours. But the only thing that worries me is that the campaign started off a little bit, you know, to the point where I was almost not going to back it. I did back it. I decided to do it as a birthday present to myself because I figured, well, I got a bit of birthday money, fine. I'm going to, even though I think this is overpriced, I'm going to back it. And it is essentially my birthday present. So please don't muck up my birthday present, Academy Games. You have the pedigree of doing pretty good games in the past and certainly respecting themes. So do your best here and make certain that you didn't overreach yourself. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning. But, you know, if they can pull it off, this will be really cool because I think Stellaris is a great IP to base a Space 4X game on. I think you can do a really good job. You don't have to mimic the PC game exactly, but just give me that feel of all these different races and resource management and exploration and technology upgrades. This could be really, really good, but it could also burn to a crisp really, really quickly. So it's on the fragile side, but I'm still kind of excited and hopeful, shall we say, that Stellaris won't let me down.
You were the chosen one!
Inside Up Games provides us with my number 5, and this is actually fulfilling, I think, in the next month or so. I probably will see it around February, March at the latest, although problem with being in the United Kingdom, among other things, we do have a million problems. The fact that Brexit has now meant that everything gets delayed delivery-wise to the UK is annoying, so God knows when I'll get this Kickstarter. But I'm looking forward to this open-world engine-building card game. Nice, relatively simple, and for a Kickstarter, really, really cheap, and that is Earth. You know, this one does look like it could be a really good fun card tableau builder for me. And I like these style of games. Building a tableau of cards, doing combinations, different strategic possibilities. It's a type of genre I like, but the fact that this is all about like animals and flora and fauna and all that lot means not only is it an area that I'm kind of interested in, I mean, I don't know a ton about all that stuff, but at least I have an appreciation of the ecosystem and the planet. But also, I just like the fact that this could look gorgeous. The artwork looked pretty nice from the Kickstarter page. I want to see it up close with all the cards looking as nice as they do. And this was really cheap. It wasn't, what was it, more like about 40, 50 quid tops? No, it probably wasn't even that. I think it was cheaper. This was a pretty cheap Kickstarter, if I remember. And it was just a welcome change to see something that didn't demand 400 quid out of my own pocket just to fund a few miniatures or so.
Okay. It's $500.
Shut up and take my money!
Nah, this one said, look, small price point, cool little card game, open world, lots of cool strategic possibilities, not a million rules. This will be a nice little one to have in your collection. And you know what? I'm down for that. So I'm hopeful that this one will live up to the expectations that it had mechanically, but thematically and aesthetically, I think it's already fit the bill in my respect. So let's just see what happens, and hopefully this will probably be the second or first one on this list that I'll be able to actually try out properly, although the other one is technically a cheat, more on that in a minute. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. For my number 4, this is the sequel to what can only be considered the magnum opus for this designer. Or at least we thought it would be the magnum opus. Apparently he can do 2 magnum opuses. Seriously, does this guy not sleep, eat, drink, breathe, or whatever outside of designing games? This guy's a machine. His whole family is a machine. But this one is not higher, well, I mean it's at 4, but bear in mind what I said at the start for this list. My worry is that this is a campaign game, and I am starting to get a little bit tired of stupid long campaigns where they take forever and demand a ton of time commitment. You need the same group, or it's got to be really, really good solo. But I do make exceptions for campaign games that are just that good. Sleeping Gods was one of those games which was just that good. Granted, even that one's starting to die a little bit for me because of the time commitment, but the new one, Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, has still got me intrigued because this one feels just basically like a pseudo 1.5 sequel, except now you're in a plane flying around. But what this now gives the opportunity for Ryan Lockett to do is not only give me a nice, gorgeous looking game with beautiful artwork and all that stuff like he normally does, but I like the idea that now he can take what was like the feedback from Sleeping Gods and tune it slightly, improve it. Maybe this will just be Sleeping Gods 1.5. Whatever. I mean, come on. You want to get on me for Sleeping Gods 1.5, Mr. Frosthaven?
We have such sights to show you.
I'm looking forward to the idea that it's going to rejuvenate combat, and combat was probably, I didn't mind the combat system of Sleeping Gods, frankly, but it was probably one of the weaker links, so granted, if they're going to improve on that, great. But if they can find a way to make the campaign a little speedier, or to get into it a little bit quicker, or not have to control 9 characters when you're playing it solo, that's a bit of a mission. But, you know, if they can just fine-tune the system, I'm sure he can, and then great, you know, I'm totally down. But it is a campaign game. I'm gonna have to find a time for it, and I hope to God they do not release this around Essen time, because otherwise I will never find the time to play it, and that would be a bad thing really, because, you know, Ryan Lockett does really good stuff with his world building, and Sleeping Gods was really good fun when I played it. It is on my top 100 for a reason, and so I'm keen to see if this one can do the same thing. And as I say, campaign games, but as I say, this one's definitely one of the easier campaign games to get into, and actually, you know, without having to charge me 400 quid, you know, I'm using that number randomly, but, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pounds, I don't need to spend that much on this game to get a ton of replay value. How much do all the big games at the moment cost for endless replayability? Quite a bit. How much replayability is in Sleeping Gods for the price you pay? Near infinite. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I believe you can do replay value without having to charge a fortune, people. You know, get on it. Listen to Ryan Lockett and see what he has to say. But yeah, I'm down for this one, for hopefully a solid campaign experience. And while we're on the subject of campaign games, this one makes my number 3, and I've actually done a preview of this one before. I considered it for my number 1, or at least my number 2 at first, but then I had to realise, campaign games, ah dear. I know that this is going to demand a time commitment for me, but when it comes to campaign games, particularly long ones, like this one is a long one, the setting in this, the world building, and the story and the narrative is just that good that I don't care that it's long. This is Tainted Grail Kings of Ruin. I've done a preview of this already, and I've played the first 2 scenarios. And just from that alone, I can tell that the story is even better than it was before, and that's saying something because it was already amazing before. But the quality of life improvements that they've done to make this a bit less punishing, or to make it a little bit more, you know, just to improve on some of the mechanics, are definitely welcome. Yes, I bet, like a lot of Awakened Realms games, I'll probably have to house rule 1 or 2 things in order to make it a little less beat down punishing, but this one definitely does feel like a solid, you know, 1.5, maybe a 2.0 of Tainted Grail, and the changes that I can adapt to the old system are definitely going to be welcome. But honestly, I'm down for just digging into this new world with these new characters, that fun card combat system, which granted is a little bit long-winded. I might have to house rule encounters for that sort of thing, you know, not have to fight an encounter every 5 seconds, but I like the fact that the menhirs have been replaced with, you know, markers that are a lot easier to put up and are permanent, and you don't have to constantly micromanage these things. I like the fact that exploration is now free. You don't, I house rule this into Tainted Grail, that exploration does not cost action points to do, because I think it was stupid that it used to, but now it doesn't. You can actually not feel too bad when the narrative says, and exploration ends. But, you know, it's great that it has these improvements. But yeah, gorgeous artwork, great setting. The only thing that's not making this my number one, frankly, is the fact that it's a campaign. And I know it's gonna take some time to get through. Maybe I'm just really, like, bummed out on campaign games now. I just like it when a game can just give me a good experience as a one-off, you know? I mean, I can play Abyss, one game, done, all good, nice. Sentinels in the Multiverse, the stories you can tell from playing 4 different heroes against a villain in that game, great. Spirit Island, so much fun, so much thinking, so much replay value, and yet it's one game, done and dusted. I don't have to play a Spirit Island campaign mode, and Great Other Games do not dare. You dare try a campaign mode for Spirit Island. I will be watching you, Great Other Games.
And now you're selling it. You're selling it.
No. But still, I'm looking forward to this one, campaign and all, just because the world setting is just that brilliant. And now for the cheat. Yes, this one is apparently a cheat. However, even though in later lists that I do, I am going to correct myself and, well, I don't say correct myself. I knew this before I made this list, but I still slotted it on. Yes, I will retcon it at a later date. And I have checked on the BGG that yes, technically this is down as 2022. However, this is a game that has barely fulfilled on Kickstarter for people in America, okay? It's barely fulfilled for them. Some of them haven't even got it yet and they're in the States. Yes, a few of them, like a micro few of them, got it in December. But for the majority of other people, they haven't got it yet. And certainly in the UK, it hasn't reached us yet. So this might as well be a 2023 game for me. And like I said, I was struggling to find 10 games that I could get really excited about, so give me a break. But this one, yeah, I'm definitely excited about. The only reason I haven't put it as my number one is because I think the fact that I'm cheating would probably get me like burnt at the stake for doing so, but still. And also the fact that this is a publisher I don't really know anything about. I think they're quite new, so there is chance for this to fail. But my favorite PC game at the moment is the same as this board game, Deep Rock Galactic. Yes, I know it says 2022 on Board Game Geek, but as I said, where's my copy then if it's 2022? But this, oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this. I mean, I have sunk 470 plus hours or something into Deep Rock Galactic on the PC. It's just an amazing 4-player co-op, plug and play, dwarf mining, shooty spider game, you know. It's like, I get to kill bugs and spiders, it's great. And I don't have to be petrified of them. Well, except for the Screamer, that thing's a bit of a menace. But the game itself is just great fun. I can literally just, after this video, I could just look up my PC, play it, play a 20-minute game, done. With randos. And the community will 99% of the time be great. I can have fun, hazard level 5, go it, high difficulty, maybe even solo it. But I can just go straight into it. I don't have to do tons of prep or deck build or, you know, commit myself to a subscription or anything. It's just in and great. A board game of this that respects the IP and has all the stuff from the game, oh yeah, of course I'm excited for this one. I mean, I backed it without even really considering it. You know, it was a little bit pricey, yes, that did make me hesitate for a little bit, but then I thought to myself, this is Deep Rock Galactic, Luke, why aren't you buying it? So of course I want to buy it and try it. So now I can have a 4-player co-op with all the different like classes, the driller, the engineer, and the scout and all that, and the gunner, against all these different bugs, a different map each time, objectives. I don't expect it to be like massive in terms of heavy mechanics or anything. In fact, I'll be glad if it does keep it relatively light. But the fact that it's respecting the theme so well, there's a lot of little Easter eggs in there that are going to make me remember the computer game, and the amount of times that rock and stone is going to get quoted during this game is insane. Although I'll still be interested to show this to people who have never played the computer game before and hope they'll still enjoy it as a good 4-player co-op experience. But yeah, if you're a fan of Deep Rock Galactic, of course you've got to try this board game. And again, it could crash and burn greatly. But this is probably, in fairness, the game I'm most excited to play over the next few months. It's just the fact that it says 2022 on Board Game Geek did make me hesitate about putting it as my number 1. So we could chop and change my number 1 and 2 for this if you're being in a forgiving mood, shall we say, people. But in case you're not, it's my number 2, number 1.
Rock and stone, brother!
And my number 1, again, I don't know much about its mechanics, but this one is pretty much down to the fact that it is the pedigree of the publisher. These games that this publisher makes are just ones that work for me. Yeah, there's been the occasional miss, and by miss I just mean that I don't like it as much as the others. It's not like it's bad. But I own 4 of their games, and they're all 9 or 10 out of 10s for me. When it comes to midweight Euros, this publisher just knows how to design a game for me. And with the same consistent graphic design, it means that it's easy for me to go from one game to the next, but also to teach other people. They just work. They give me a good amount of replay value. They give me interesting twists on mechanics. A twist on worker placement here, a twist on engine building here, a twist on dice manipulation here. And, you know, the last one that just came out, I love. I think it's really good. And I'm hoping that this next one, Scholars of the South Tigris, oh yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I don't know a great deal about his mechanics, and certainly the theme isn't exactly interesting me, but let's face it, the theme of these other ones didn't particularly interest me. It's the Garfield Games' line is not to do with their themes that interests me. It's the fact that these games are just good, solid fun to play. Raiders of the North Sea, great little worker placement mechanic of put a worker down, take another one off, and then trade them in for other workers as you go invade stuff. Great, and building your own crew is just fun. Then you got Architects, the twist on worker placement. So we have all our workers, but then we put our workers down, and then we arrest the workers and go put them in prison. And then we have to go fetch ours from prison. Again, great little twist. Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Was it? Yeah, Viscounts of the West Kingdom. The rondel, moving around, the combo building with the little deck building element, that you have that little conveyor belt as the cards go along and you're trying to do actions based on timing for your various cards. Lots of replay value, really love that game. And it's, I think, in my bag at the moment, Wayfarers. Wayfarers was a great card tableau building game of trying to get the different tags off the cards, land, sea, and space. Lots of replay value. Not the best solo mode in the world, but I like playing it multiplayer. These games just work for me. I mean, Wayfarers is probably the heaviest game of the lot out of that lot on, but even then it doesn't feel stupidly heavy. We're not talking Mind Clash games level of heaviness or Capstone games level of heaviness. We're talking reasonably heavy, on that borderline between heavy and midweight, but the midweight games, you know, are definitely perfectly midweight. And they just seem to work. I find that no matter how complex these games get, I can teach them really well. Maybe because I'm used to the graphic design that they have, but then that's a good thing because it means I can teach these games a lot quicker and easier than usual. But I just enjoy playing them. Each time I do, I think, well, I'm going to try this cool thing, or I'm going to try this idea now. Or because they're usually quite tactical in some respects, particularly like with Wayfarers of the South Tigris, I can be like, okay, fine, I think I'm going to go for this, but ooh, that card looks juicy. Oh, I quite like that, but oh, that option's nice. Oh, the options! That's what they do. It gives me a lot of cool options, of which none of them are like rubbish. It's just the fact that there's a bunch of cool options, and I've got to decide which of the cool stuff I like. This is what gets me with a lot of their games, and of course, at the moment, they've gone Viscounts, great. Wayfarers, great. Can we go 3 for 3 in a row? But the main thing that worries me, and this still worries me a little bit, is the fact that this is the second of the series. Now, the original series, the second one wasn't that highly regarded. In West Kingdom, as much as everybody else lords over it, Paladins is still only a 6 out of 10 for me. It started off better than it ended up and it's still my weak link of the 3. Does that mean the second one's going to be the weak link of this one for me? Hopefully not. I would love for these trilogies to give me 3 for 3, like 3 fantastic games, but we'll have to see. Thematically, this is definitely not the most enticing of the lot, but then didn't really care that much about the theme of previous ones, so let's just hope that Garfield Games can just keep carrying on, do what they do, and if they do, then great, it's going to be a game that I'm definitely excited for. Not going to see it till the end of the year, but you bet I'm going to want to get a copy of this and play it as soon as I physically can. So there you go, 10 games that I'm kind of sort of excited to see in 2023. Yeah, I know this has been a bit of a weird list, and I was almost tempted to just put this on a podcast episode, but I thought, nah, I did it last year, I gotta do it this year, but I do have to highlight that some of these games I am keen to try. You know, I'm like, yeah, okay, these are gonna be great, but maybe the critic brain in my head is just turned on a little bit too high at the moment, but I think it's just Kickstarter. Kickstarter has burnt too much out of the industry. There are a lot of people that will not Kickstart anymore because they've been burnt so many times on games. And let's face it, we Kickstart a lot of games. How many times have you played a lot of those games that you've Kickstarted? How many of them are sitting on your shelf, barely getting played because they're huge or overproduced or, impossible to get to the table, or because you just have another 10 Kickstarters on the way? It happens, and even I have to accept that with a few things. And granted, I fall into the trap sometimes of buying stuff I probably shouldn't. I've got the expansions for Edge of Darkness on the way soon because I really love that game from AEG. But then if I thought hard about it, maybe I don't really need the expansions considering it's hard enough to get the game to the table and I already have a lot of content in there. That's me being a slight fanboy and probably, having lack of willpower at the time. But we all do it. This is the problem Kickstarter has. But a lot of these games that I mentioned are sadly Kickstarter because frankly that's the only games that ever get announced anymore. The retail versions never get brought to the limelight until a week before release. So when am I supposed to do this list? Technically our board game calendar is probably Essen to Essen if you think about it. But then, even then, some games don't get announced to Essen until then, and some of them get released to Essen or a month after, which means they're not the future year releases at that point. So it's really hard to time this, and I don't know if I'm going to do this again next year for this particular list, or if I do, I probably will just do it as a podcast list, but people want to see them, they're popular, and other creators are doing them, and they're getting a lot more excited about these games than I am. So, if nothing else, maybe you can take away that this is a bit of a weird list. So, a list that's going, oh yeah, I'm excited. It's like, I'm not entirely sure. But these games could be fantastic. All 10 of these could be mind-blowing, amazing, and if they are, I will be singing the praises of them. But of course, keep the critic brain on, gotta look at it with a truthful, honest opinion here and think, look, these games could have issues, and if they have flaws, you bet I'll be pointing them out because that's what I do. So, yeah, we'll see. Top 10 games I'm kind of excited for, hopeful for in some circumstances. Yeah, it's not, I'm not exactly buzzing with glee over these, but let's face it, how many people are? Are people really that excited over future upcoming games these days? Particularly when, take for example, watch the recent Dice Tower News episode that came out. I remember 2 games in particular that there was like, oh, this is newly announced, was My City Roll and Build and Camelot the card game. If this is the level of design space we have to look forward to in future years from non-Kickstarter stuff, we're in trouble, guys. We're in trouble. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd be interested to know. Are you hyped for games coming out this year? Are you kind of burnt on it? Are you just going to wait and see? I think that's kind of my approach, really. You can come up to me with a game and go, oh yeah, this is really cool. But I'll probably just be like, yeah, I'll wait and see. I'll try it when it comes out and then we'll see what it's like then. I don't buy into hype. This is not what I do. It's why when I do Kickstarter previews, I still give pros and cons and I'm not there to go, buy this game, it's absolutely amazing. That's not what I do. And hopefully that's why you watch the show, because you're getting that kind of feedback. But I'd be interested to know, is there stuff you're excited for, or like me, are you more interested in the expansions? Because expansions, I am excited for, but I didn't want to do top 10 anticipated expansions again because I couldn't actually find 10 expansions I was interested in, although Ark Nova Aquarius, yes, come on, give me Ark Nova Aquarius, I can't wait for that. Yeah, maybe that should be my number 1, an expansion to Ark Nova. Boy, we are in trouble, aren't we?
Well, we're boned.
But I've waffled on enough, so that's it from me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, please remember you can thumb up the video on YouTube, or you can get it on social media. Consider joining the Patreon, or just get your comments down below and let me know your thoughts. I'd really appreciate it. If you want to check out more content on the show, then I highly recommend the review I did recently for Frostpunk, one of the best examples of a PC game ported to a board game that I've seen in recent years. Check out the review for more details. Until next time, remember, whether you're excited for the coming year or just ho-hum about it, remember, it's only a game, save your money and spend it wisely, and we'll see you soon. Take care.